Okay, so have you ever woken up and been like, whew, I feel kind of crappy, but like, is this a cold coming on? Or is this, oh no, the flu?
Right, like everyone's been there, am I right? And it's actually a really important question because how you deal with a cold versus the flu, that's two different things, right?
Totally. And
Yeah.
and it's not just about treating it. It's like, how long am I going to feel this way? Am I going to be down for the count?
Hmm.
So you gave me some really interesting stuff to look at for today's deep dive. And one of the things I thought was super interesting was this chart. We all know kind of cold versus flu, but this chart really lays it out in black and white.
Yeah, and one of the things that at least for me I always find fascinating is how differently a cold and the flu kind of start, right? Like a cold is such a slow burn. You're like,
Yeah.
am I tired? Is my nose a little stuffy? And then a couple days later, it's like, bam, tissues everywhere. Flu is like it hits you like a ton of bricks.
Totally. Like, is it even 3 o'clock? I need to go back to bed.
Yeah, and it's not just like you're tired. It's like you have no energy, you ache all over, fever spikes. It's no joke.
Speaking of fever, that was one of the things that really jumped out at me from this chart was that with a cold, I mean, maybe you got a little bit of temperature, but flu, it's like you said, it spikes. Like it's a high fever. It's right there in your face.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, and it's really important because I mean that kind of gets to the how serious is this, right? With a cold, you're miserable, you've got the runny nose, maybe a cough. Flu, that can knock you down for days, sometimes even longer, and there's the potential for complications, so it's not something to mess around with.
And, and that actually is a really good segue into this whole other thing that you had sent me,
Yeah.
this idea about the therapeutic order. This is wild. So it's like, okay, you're sick, but instead of just like, popping something, it's this whole other way of thinking about getting healthy.
And it's funny you should say that because that's exactly what it is. It's not about just masking symptoms. It's really about giving your body what it needs to actually heal itself.
Okay, so walk me through this. How does this therapeutic order thing actually work?
Okay, so imagine like a pyramid. Okay.
Okay, I'm with you.
The bottom of the pyramid, the widest part, that's like your foundation, right? So that's all the stuff that we know is good for us, but maybe we don't always do, right?
Mhm.
Like sleep, how are you sleeping? What are you eating? Are you managing your stress? Are you even just like drinking enough water? That's the foundation.
It's like you can't build a house without a foundation, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Then, as you move up the pyramid, you're starting to get a little more targeted. So, you're looking at things like, are there any specific nutrients that you need? Maybe you're low on vitamin D, which, super important for your immune system. Maybe you need some probiotics to get your gut health in check. It's all about figuring out what your body needs to function at its best.
So it's kind of like figuring out what's out of whack and then giving it a boost.
Yeah, exactly. And then we move up even further and you're talking about structural stuff. So think, do you need to see a
Yeah.
chiropractor? Maybe some physiotherapy, or even just like, how's your workstation set up? You'd be amazed at how much of an impact your posture can have. It's all connected.
Right. Like how many times have you gotten a stiff neck and thought, oh, I just slept wrong? But maybe it's more than that.
It could be. And it's only after you've addressed all of those things, like the foundation, and then kind of these specific things that might be out of balance, that you would even think about, okay, maybe I need something more, like pharmaceuticals or in, very specific cases, even surgery. It really changes the whole approach, doesn't it?
Yeah. It totally does. It's like work smarter, not harder. And one of the things you mentioned is that there's like a color coding system with this too. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So it's really simple, but it's kind of genius. So they color code the different remedies and it's all tied back to this pyramid, right?
Hmm.
So green, that's all your foundational stuff, like making sure you're eating right and getting enough sleep, things like that. Blue, that might be, supplements. Maybe they're targeted to support a specific organ or system, and it goes on from there. So the color is basically telling you what level of intervention we're talking about, and that helps you figure out the most appropriate approach.
It's like instead of just reaching for whatever's in your medicine cabinet, you're taking a step back and saying, okay, what's actually going on here? And speaking of taking a step back, our listener for today's episode actually sent in a note about seeing a holistic healthcare practitioner. So how does that tie into everything that we're talking about?
Oh, I love that. That's a great question, and it's really at the heart of it all. Finding a healthcare provider who understands this whole concept of the therapeutic order, that's huge because it means that they're not just going to treat your symptoms, right? they're going to work with you to really figure out what's going on, to build up your foundation, and ultimately to prevent you from getting sick in the first place.
Wow. It's like they're not just treating the disease, they're treating the person.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's amazing. So to our listener today, think about this. We've been talking about colds and flu, but this whole therapeutic order thing, this is bigger than that, right?
Yeah.
This is about your overall health. So how could you apply this to other areas of your life? Think about that.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to have presented this little quick, cute coffee break for you guys, just to help you to understand really about cough versus flu symptoms so that you can be proactive instead of reactive this cough, cold, and flu season. Also, too, we discuss therapeutic order, so understanding when to use what. We'll talk more about this over this next week. And just wanting to present to you guys all of our podcast series, which are coming soon. Thank you so much for your patience with us as we kind of get everything organized on the back end. We are really looking forward to creating some amazing content with some breathtaking stories. So